Hi everyone, welcome to On the Couch. We are four authors talking today about poetry, prose, and how writing can help with generating conversation about mental health and also the power of healing in those words. I'm Kelly Van Nelson, and I'm the #1 best-selling author of 2 contemporary poetry collections and also contemporary fiction, always about mental health, anti-bullying, domestic violence, and suicide prevention, and they're all topics that I'm deeply passionate about. I'm delighted to introduce my good friend Danielle Aitken, also joining me on the couch today. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you for that introduction. Lovely to be here. I'm really excited to have a chat today. Also, I am an author and a mental health worker. I've had quite an extensive career working in the areas of mental and physical health. And I'm really excited today to bring my messages about mental health awareness and wellness and suicide prevention and infertility is also to have a chat about these issues today. So that's great to be here, and I'll just pass over to Lindy, and Lindy can just say hi.
Hello, I'm Lindy.
Hi, Lindy.
Hello, I'm author of Tinker Tailor's Toolbox for Mending Broken Hearts. I am passionate about writing stories for children about important issues such as mental health and neurodiversity. I have experience working with adults with severe mental health issues and also children with disabilities. So I'm very excited to be here today. I'd like to introduce you to Michelle WEITERING.
Thank you, Lindy. Yes, WEITERING, you got it right. Yes, hi everyone, I am Michelle WEITERING and I also write under Mickey Martin, and I write both fiction and non-fiction around a lot of social topics, but especially mental health, which is a passion of mine due to family situations, which I will chat to you about as we go along. Thank you, Lindy.
Okay, I just wanted to ask you, Michelle, I've read your book 13 Underwater, absolutely brilliant. I just would invite you to talk a bit more about that and ask you about your particular inspiration for that book.
Absolutely. I really believe in the power of story, and I was into the first draft of the Given trilogy when my eldest son, who was 12 at the time, turning 13, started school refusal. And for those who don't know, school refusal is a form of anxiety. It is not a behavioural issue. So he was in year 7, turned to week 2, when he physically could not leave the house. He'd wake up for 2 weeks with either headaches, dizzy spells, stomach cramps and diarrhoea. So we obviously didn't know what was going on at the time, so we made phone calls to Beyond Blue, appointments with Headspace, and reached out to a family friend who was a counsellor at the time, and discovered that our beautiful little boy had severe social anxiety. So it was quite a big slam in the guts for us as a family, because we are a loving little unit, and we had no idea why this was happening. So we did get him the help he needed, which is still an ongoing thing, but he did not leave the house for 2 years at one stage. So that was pretty full on. And as parents, we reached out for support for ourselves so that we could be more supportive to him. And we found an online group, which is Parents Living with Children, Living with Anxiety. So as big as this group was, thousands of families worldwide, it just still shocked me, even as little as 6 years ago, you know, how many of those were just saying that so many of their friends or family didn't understand mental illness, or how debilitating living with a child 24/7 with anxiety or any mental illness, how exhausting it can be. So that is why I wrote this beautiful little baby, 13 and Underwater, about our family's journey, just to help other parents read it and share it with those that weren't familiar or as sort of educated about it. And I'm hoping that it can be used as a tool for either, you know, workers in the school industry, education workers, and that sort of thing. So that was my inspiration to really write it, just to share our story.
Must have been a hard book to write, Michelle, from a personal perspective.
It was a tough one, Danielle, but it was so cathartic at the same time, and just the people that have been able to reach out to me and let me know how it's really helped them, and it's made them cry and laugh, which is, I love my evil side, but it really has been it's been so rewarding. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's very important to tell those stories.
Yeah, thank you. And Lindy, I just wanted to ask you as well, where did you get your inspiration for writing the Tinker Tailor's Toolbox, and what did you hope to achieve by writing this?
Well, I drew on my own experiences of childhood trauma, and I think I inadvertently have gained skills from little right up to now with my own mental health journey, particularly about 5 years ago when I got quite sick. So I just drew on my own mental health experience, but also my niece actually went through a traumatic event, and the book was born out of a real desire to help her with her own mental health journey. So yes, it was born out of that, and it's about a little girl that goes through trauma, and her brother's perspective, who's Tinker, he really just wants to fix her, and he realizes it's a little bit tricky. So yeah, the inspiration came from Ellie, but also from my own experience, and then that desire came to help other children.
That's wonderful. That's awesome. Well done, honey.
What about you, Danielle? What inspired you to become an author?
It was an interesting journey. Callie, I worked in mental health and physical health for a long time, and I spent a long time working in IVF, 20 years. And during that time, I got to witness a lot of, mainly women. I was mainly working with women, but the men also, of course, are part of this journey. But I witnessed how a lot of people really didn't cope with the ups and downs, the emotional roller coaster, as we used to call it, of IVF. The huge highs and then the sudden lows, and I witnessed so many people who I thought would be amazing parents, and it was a really difficult journey, and a little seed was sown a long time ago when I particularly some of these people, and I just thought I'd love to be able to do something more. I actually became a counsellor. I'm a nurse and midwife, and actually became a counsellor at that time to have more skills personally so that I could help them. But you know, the people I could see one-on-one, I wanted to do more. So I thought, you know, the power of the written word is amazing, and I can get my messages out to more people because there actually are things that we can do. And I'm a great believer in mind-body potential. So I actually struggled a little bit and went through my own personal journey of an illness, an autoimmune disorder, which really knocked me flat, whereby I could really not even walk a couple of steps or do much at all. So I had to look for my own mental health, what I could do, not what I couldn't do. And so during that time, the seed that had been sown years beforehand, and I had written a little bit here, a paragraph here and there, maybe a chapter of this book, but it sat dormant for maybe 6 or 7 years until I finally was given by the universe, great powers that are, a little bit of time to sit. I had nothing else to do, and so I wrote this on Sarah's story. In the book, I aim to educate families about this very difficult journey, and also educate people who are, you know, heading this way, the things that they can actually do that are going to make a difference, that can help them to create their own different outcomes, be it emotional or physical. So
it's had enormous success as well. So there's definitely an audience of, you know, people out there that this is touching. It's
absolutely, yeah. One in six couples require help for fertility. So it is a massive issue. Yeah.
It is a beautiful book, Danielle. It's just so, like, everyone that's read it has just so connected with it on so many different levels, because it's not just about IVF. It's about conquering and overcoming so many things. So it really is well done. You should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it is definitely the messages about how we can overcome adversity, and really I guess that's what all our books are about, overcoming adversity in all various ways. And I know, Kelly, you've used the poetry to spread that message, so that's quite different to what we've done. Would you like to have a little chat about what you've done? Because you're going great guns. Your books are really, really out there. And I'd like to say congratulations too on the launch of your latest one, Punch and Judy, which is really doing so well.
Yeah,
So
thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, the poetry is an interesting one. I sort of wrote fiction for years, but in between writing the fiction pieces, I was writing poetry because it was short and sharp, and I could write about a particular topic in the moment and get a creative piece out of it. And I love it. It's something I don't even really think about. I write them on the move and type them on my phone and record them in the car and all kinds of things. They're just like this real, for me, poetry's, firstly, it's like a personal stress relief. So I find it relaxing, and I find it a super way to just let off steam, or to write a little piece about something that I see and I care about and I want to say something.
Yeah.
And I love poetry because you can say something in the fewest number of words. And I like to play with what those words are so that every word has impact and every pause has impact.
Yeah.
And you can get sometimes, a 2-line poem out with a message in it, and it gives me a way of saying something that I feel is important to say. And the first book, my first book is called Graffiti Lane, and it's Hosier Lane on the front if anyone's watching and they're in Melbourne. And I had no intentions of publishing these poems. It was a case of I was working with a publisher on the fiction, and in the process of talking to her, I actually realized I had hundreds of poems on my laptop and on my phone. And we ended up talking about how can we pull these into a collection and what would it look like. And when I went through and sifted through the poems, they were all about deeply personal social issues.
Yeah.
Anti-bullying being one of them. I was bullied as a child, and I came from a working class family in a council estate. Mum who was married sort of four times, so different stepfathers. My father passed away in his 40s. So it was difficult at home, but it was worse at school. I was relentlessly verbally bullied for a number of years. And a lot of the poems that I had, not just through subconsciously sort of churning stuff out, were about anti-bullying and about that experience of finding this thick skin, building a thick skin, and a resilience to cope with these challenges in life. And so I pulled them into a collection, and Graffiti Lane started to morph. And I used the Graffiti Lane because artists of all kinds, whether it's musicians or somebody painting or writers like us, we're all sort of finding ways to just go through life with our own challenges, and sometimes it happens to help other people. And when the collection went live in the book form, it did go crazy. It got a lot of traction with the youth community, because I think people resonated with the theme. It is urban, it is cool, it's contemporary, it's funky, and they could resonate. It's not super high-end literary fiction. It's very raw and it's very gritty, and I think it's really accessible for that youth and young adult community. But it's got a good adult audience as well. It went a little bit crazy, and it stemmed me to write a second collection, which I'll talk about in a sec. I'm gonna come off me, but that's where the first book came from. But the anti-bullying thing's right at the heart of it. And it was originally, I wrote it just to help me, the poems, but now it's really got huge traction in helping others to to hook into something, know they're not alone, and that there are ways that you can speak out about things that are not right. And that anti-bullying thing is something I'm still deeply passionate about. And Michelle, I know we met, actually, Michelle and I, and you, Danielle, actually, at an author event that we held, a little similar to this one, except it was live. It wasn't in the pandemic, about all of our themes around mental health again. And I remember, Michelle, meeting your son there, and his experience at school and my experience at school. and you just it forms these different connections with people, and I just find it amazing. I think whether it's poetry or fiction or children's books, whatever we're writing, that it's helping a little piece of ourselves and other people now. And it's so important to generate conversations that matter. And if nothing else, I think that's what we're trying to do today. But yeah, I love your book as well, Michelle, about anti-bullying and your son. And again, I think your style is a bit the same. No filters. It's very raw. It's how it is. It's not dressed up and sugar coated. And that's how I like to write. And I really resonate with your style.
Yeah, I think that's why we connected so well, Cal, because there is no filter, and I think your journey, and then my son, and then him coming to the Docklands that time in Melbourne, him actually leaving the house and taking public transport to come was the start of his healing journey as well, and the fact that he performed a poem, or so I'll call it rap, I don't want to offend him, a rap at my book launch for 13 last year was just huge. And that's why I wanted to discuss that with you too, Kelly, because, you use so many different literary mediums that play a part in raising, mental health awareness. You don't just do the poetry, you do the poetic movies and the spoken word. Like, as an artist, you are phenomenal, and I just think that needs to be applauded. So, because you are just reaching huge audiences, and poetry is hip hop.
Poetry is hip. I've been saying it everywhere in the media and on the radio and TV and everything, that poetry it's really made a comeback in the last, I would say maybe only in the last year, especially in the contemporary form. And I do think it's our time, it's people's time, it's the time of our youths in this generation of wanting now to speak out and feeling that it's absolutely okay to speak out, and that we should. Topics like anti-bullying and mental health, we never talked about it 20 years ago, and that's not so good. Like, just talking about it can be helpful to connect in and know that you're not alone, and to raise more awareness. So yeah, the poetry sort of it has evolved. I try all kinds of crazy things with it. My son is into movie making, and we've been making all these little short sort of films with the poem at the heart of the movie. And we've been connecting them into longer pieces now. And again, that's getting this viral digital social media audience. I've got a massive tribe of followers online now because of these different forms. And, you can post a poem, you can write a poem, a really short one on the move. I do it in taxis and whatever, and I can post it out. And, you do get this new audience, different kinds of audience. And yeah, so poetry, and whether it's poetry and prose, I think just these new mediums are really getting traction. But I just think it's time to speak out. That's pretty much.
Absolutely. It is powerful, Cal. Look, I'm sorry I have to do this. I'm just going to read one thing quickly from Kelly's Punch and Judy, because this smacked me in the face. I've read the entire thing, obviously, but I love this. Beginnings. Love at first sight. Punch in gut. Snaps out of rut. New love unreally thrilling Judy. Love before first fight. So I just think the way you word things, I mean, I don't know if Danielle or Lindy do poetry. I dabble, but I just find to be able to do this and to create is, you've got to be super duper clever. What do you do, poetry, Lindy?
I dabble in it. I've done a few years, but continuously writing. I have to pull over and just write things down as they come. But there could be parts of stories or a random poem. But yeah.
Yeah, I just think to get a message so clearly across in a few short, like a little tiny paragraph, that's awesome. Well done.
Thanks for reading that. Yeah, that's a different book, that one. The second one, Punch and Judy. I approached that one a different way from Graffiti Lane. Was just, some of the poems in there are 10 years old, and I just had them, and they had came from just things I had seen and experienced. Whereas Punch and Judy was a bit more sort of pointed on the theme. I wanted specifically to write about turbulent modern love and the mental pressures that can bring, and that no relationship is ever perfect. I don't know a single person who has a perfect relationship, no matter what you present in your external sort of world. So I started writing about that, and it evolved a little bit to, the the deeply troubled sides of relationships. And then I started writing about the domestic violence side of things, which not because I have a violent husband, I don't, he's really kind and amazing, but because I do know women and friends who have been in problematic relationships, and they stay sometimes because there are reasons that you have to stay, and there are reasons that sometimes people can break free and go. And both require massive courage and bravery, no matter what the decision is, whether you stay or whether you go. And so I started writing a bit about that, about struggling to break free or finding ways to cut the strings. And I used the characters of Punch and Judy, they're Victorian puppets, and you know, that puppetry master kind of angle to it, and a little like what you were saying, Michelle, about, you know, people are contacting you now about their experience and how they resonate with your writing in 13 and Underwater. Punch and Judy's been really the same. I've had all these women reach out and say, this is me, you know, I'm in a relationship, and there was this desire and this attraction, and it was so intense and so deeply in love, and it did go wrong, and now there's kids, or there's financial reasons, or there are circumstances why, you know, you have to stay, or you choose to stay. And then others that have managed to get out of their problematic relationships, or where there's real intense domestic violence going on. And you know, just again hooking into the poem and thinking like, I'm not alone, and I can speak to someone, and there are support mechanisms out there. It really feels so rewarding to just even one person, you know, if you reach one person and they think, yeah, like I've resonated with your poetry, and you know, and you can you know, have that conversation, that there's support there. It went from there with Punch and Judy.
That's the key, isn't it, Kelly? I think for all of us as writers, when you actually make a connection to another soul that it's like, well, I really needed to read that. My God, you get it, you get me. Thank you so much. And it's kind of like, you know, we do it for us as well as we're doing it for others. But when you actually connect with another human, that I know I've got a girlfriend that loved Sarah's story. She cried and she really connected with it, not on an IVF level, but another level. And your poetry, like I've shot things across to my sister because of her past with relationships, and you know, she's cried, she's going, oh my God, that Kelly Van Nelson, she's, you know, she's a superstar. And Linda, your book as well, like it's just so beautiful that the power of story and words can be so healing and so uplifting. And I think we're really blessed to be able to do what we do and connect with other people. So yeah.
I think it's important to put these stories out there, and what we're doing by doing this is we're normalizing. And I think that's so important, because so many people go through things, and this was very much with the IVF journey, people going through it on their own, thinking they were the only ones feeling this way. And the same with mental health issues. There's so many people that will never speak out about it, particularly men. So I think, you know, Australia has the highest levels of anxiety and depression in our part of the world, and you know, the statistics are appalling. So, and so many people are suffering in silence. So I think by, you know, the poetry, fantastic, by the books about personal stories, whatever we do, I mean, we're all raising awareness. And I know that most of us, we're doing it in every kind of way. We're all mental health advocates. So we're all stepping out for mental health in lots of ways. And I think, you know, that's fantastic. So people just get the message.
Yeah, you're doing it fearlessly as well. I mean, your new book, especially, Daniela, it's really a strong, fearless story to put out there. It is about suicide, and with the ripples, and it went to #1 as well. It had amazing traction, which it's such a deep and troublesome theme, but it's the reality. It's happening, and it's around us, and it again helped to generate conversation about suicide in youths. And do you want to chat a bit about the ripples?
I really do. I love to chat about this because it's a topic that a lot of people in the past haven't spoken too much about. It has been one of those taboo topics. It is suicide, and I wrote the book The Ripples, that one there, about suicide, particularly teen suicide. The Ripples is, but I wrote it actually because of my own personal experience, my family experience. I have, as I think I mentioned, we have 4 children, and I we'd had a family experience of suicide where the whole family was impacted, but I also, some of my children are adult children. You'd never believe it because I'm so young, but they are, and they have their own partners, and a lot of those, not teens, but in their early 20s, the young kids, particularly men and boys in their early 20s, are choosing to take their own lives. And there were so many incidences that I was becoming aware of, and in my therapy room I was seeing young children coming in with anxiety and depression. And so when I sort of surveyed my kids to say who hasn't been impacted by this, one of the four said that they hadn't, and of their respective partners, that one, his partner, also hadn't. But so 6 out of 8 had been quite significantly impacted by suicide of someone fairly close. And I just thought that's horrific. For me, the thought of a young child, you know, in our local area, unfortunately, we've had some 13-year-olds take their life, and it just horrifies me. So I really felt that I needed to do something to really raise more awareness about this, because it's such an important issue, and to, again, normalise. I think that's what one of the main things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show our children and men who don't talk about it, but I'm trying to show our children that it's normal to feel sad, it's normal to feel depressed. If something bad has happened in your life, you know, if someone's died, it's normal to feel depressed and sad, and to normalise that experience rather than to, and I guess to debunk the everything's perfect and the world is perfect that they get presented with from social media. So, you know, social media, it's with us to stay. We've got to learn how to use it. But for children, it can be a big issue because they constantly compare themselves to the unrealistic expectation that they can never attain and never live up to. So they're all the kind of themes that I wrote about in the book. Yes, it did go to #1, which is absolutely fantastic in a couple of categories. And I think that just says that it is something that people really are now starting to pay attention to. So yeah, that was why I wrote it.
It was so beautifully written. It really was so beautifully written, and it just makes it a very complex topic very accessible. That's what I loved about the story. And with your talking about the social media issue, as you say, you know, life is presented as this picture perfect world, which it is not, and so to bring those messages out, I think you've done a wonderful job with that.
Thank you, Lindy. Thank you. The other thing I actually wanted to portray in it too was some things that could help, you know, and that I know you've definitely done in your book, which is why I love your book. You've got that for young children. I think we should start with kids when they're young. And like you have actually, and I express in the book, mindfulness and various things that are helpful to manage mental health or mental wellness, shall we say. Do you want to have a chat about what you've put in your book? Because I think it's absolutely fantastic, Lindy, the toolbox that you've got there. Yeah.
Well, at the back of the story, so the story is about, as I said earlier, a young girl who goes through trauma, and then her brother wants to help. So being a fixer, he wants to fix it, but he can't. So he makes her a toolbox so she can fix her own broken heart. So at the back of the story, there's a set of instructions for kids to make their own toolboxes. So their own little mental health toolkit to navigate through life. Yeah, I got there eventually. And in fact, I do have another companion book coming out to make setting up a toolbox super easy, super simple, super quick. So making it a lot more accessible.
That's so exciting. That's so important too, darling, because the young kids do need more tools, and I just think what you're doing is so important, and I really hope that it would, you know, get into the education department for the younger kids, and you're really on something special here. I think it's beautiful for our young kids.
Thank you. That's my hope, to get into the education system. I'd love for every classroom to encourage kids to have their little mental health toolkit, toolbox. Yeah, I think it's so important.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
What about you, Michelle? What else are you writing on the book front? In fact, you've had lots going on after 13 and Underwater. I've seen you've got a whole range of projects happening as well on the writing front.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like a little kid at Christmas. I've got so much going on, darling. I've just finally launched book 3 of the trilogy in the Gibbon trilogy. So that's behind me now. I just launched that yesterday. But I have some really big projects coming along. And one of them I'm so excited to say is with my twin. And it will be covering quite a few issues, and that's domestic violence, sexual abuse, child rape, psychological abuse. It's like a little atomic bomb, really. But it is really mostly to point out the impact of how resilient we are as human beings, and how strong we can be to overcome such trauma, and how we can turn our lives around with mental wealth. I'll focus on mental wealth for a second, because no matter what you have been through in your life, we only do, while we're here, get one shot at this life. And if we can be strong enough to kind of kick trauma in the teeth and, sort of go forward for that life that we deserve, because we're all humans, we all deserve to be happy. We all really deserve that. And that's what this book's really going to be about. No matter what you've been through, you can find your happy ever after, so to speak, because, you deserve it. So it will be quite a hilarious project working with my twin, because she's one ginormous personality with zero filter. People think I've got no filter. Look out. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I do have that on the go, as well as my Mickey Martin projects, which is the Soul Keepers of Glenormous and South, which is, my passion, my love, my home, where I was raised. And that's also touching on, it will be touching on mental health issues and, the mental mind, what makes us good, what makes us choose not to do good. So it's actually going to be fun. It will be paranormal, but it will also have my messages of mental health with other stuff down the track. I don't want to talk too much.
Yeah, you mentioned resilience there, isn't it? An incredible skill to develop, isn't it? I coach youths on this a bit as well, around, that you're going to be faced with adversity in life. It's inevitable, whether it's through family or through love or through finances or all kinds of things. We all face challenges. And I think if you can build up this resilience inside to find ways to not change the situation, because sometimes you can't necessarily change what's happening to you or around you, but to find ways to navigate through and come out the other side, with the best frame of mind possible. So I more coach youths to expect challenges. And to really dig deep and to try and get up each morning and find new techniques to keep building the resilience piece, and willpower and self-love, and the ability to accept that it is okay not to be perfect, and it's okay to live in a life that's not perfect, because if you expect everything to go okay all the time, you're going to be disappointed every day, and it's going to be not the reality. But yeah, resilience is such a massive skill to build on, and kids of today, I think, are facing different challenges than what we ever did. We've got pandemic here, and we've got people going through things nobody's ever experienced before, and I think it's going to be challenging for mental health. We've seen the stats already. We've seen domestic violence rise, and we've seen suicide rates at the moment, and the challenges that youths are facing, finding employment now, and being able to understand what the future is going to bring for them. But resilience is key in all of those things. And yeah, we all call it different things. Mental health's a beautiful phrase. I call it mental fitness. How to get your brain to be fit and well, and to keep, and it takes practice. It's like physical fitness. if you don't train your brain, you know, to think differently, it's not going to be fit, it's going to be unfit. So I call it mental fitness.
That's beautiful, Kelly. And you know what, it's an everyday thing too, isn't it? Like if we don't want to put on weight, we go for a walk.
Yes.
And that's the same for our mental fitness. We've got to find things that give us joy in life, whether it is a walk in the sun, you know, out in the garden, read a book, put your feet in some water, and to teach our kids the beauty in life, get their head out of technology and teach them when they walk out to the backyard to do a chore, take that deep breath, look up at the sky. If you see a bird, you know, just try to be mindful, because, you know, the world still is beautiful around us despite all the difficulties that are going on. So yeah, I love that mental fitness. That's a beauty.
Yeah, and bringing and looking for joy, like it's another one I talk to the kids about, to say, like I do little exercises with them to say, write a 2-line or a 3-line poem about the thing that brings you joy. And then, you know, they come out with it, and sometimes they sit for ages, you know, what brings you joy. And you can, for, you know, if you've got family as well, you know, all the things that bring your kids joy and your partner's joy and other people joy, but what truly brings joy to your heart, that makes you know, you really feel fulfilled and feel gratitude inside. And you can see that, you know, the kids thinking about it, and then they find their thing. And then I try and talk to them to try and do it more often. Try and make time for yourself to spend on whatever it is that brings you joy. I mean, for me, it's the poetry and it's the writing. I love it. I would do it whether I did or didn't get published. I've always done it, and I really truly find fulfillment in the writing. But yeah, coaching people to, you know, find those couple of things. And yeah, especially at the moment when there, you know, and there are things that you can do at home if you're in, you know, lockdown as well. What are the things that you really appreciate at home and in your life? And yeah, joyfulness.
Yeah, and that's what Toolbox is about as well. Is just having a little treasure box of you that that prompts you to make a conscious effort to find, you know, to work on your mental fitness, and to, even if it's just 5 minutes a day.
It is so important. I find, you know, when I have my clients, a lot of people who have who present with problems, the problem is often that they're focusing a lot on what they don't have and what's not working and the negative, which we all naturally do when we've got a problem. So really changing that focus is so important, really searching for what makes you happy. And sometimes I say to people, you know, what makes you happy? And they'll have to think hard, and then they might write a little list, and I ask them when they last did any of those things, and often it's a very long time ago. So I think the message is, you know, if we want to be happy, if we want to be mentally resilient, we've got to start changing that focus, thinking about the things that actually we are grateful for. I mean, research tells us gratitude is one of the best things we can do to help our mental wellness. So, you know, looking for gratitude, looking for what is working, not what's not working, you know, that sort of thing. So that's why your toolbox is so amazing, Lindy, I think. And you know, all of these messages, all showing whoever reads our material, that this is, you know, you're not alone. This is something that is common, you know, normalizing, as I said, and just educating and giving people tools to start looking through a different lens, maybe, to change their world.
There's lots of support mechanisms now as well, isn't there, that weren't there when we were sort of kids. And I think each of us work with different ones. I know, Michelle, you work a bit with Beyond Blue, and Danielle, you've got yours, and I've got a new one now. I'm a mentor for a charity we're not-for-profit called Share the Spark, where they've got youths that are not necessarily academic, but that are looking for different types of careers to help them. And they're not necessarily troubled, but they're just stuck. They don't know where to go. They don't know, you know, how to develop in the line of work they want to be in. So yeah, mentoring on the writing front there. And again, it's I had to do some suicide prevention training as part of that work, and it was incredible. I learned so much around suicide prevention and how to have conversations with youths who are going through their challenges and actually maybe suffering from suicidal tendencies, and how to actually ask the question, you know, not just, are you okay? Because most people say, yes, I'm okay, but saying it's okay to not be okay, and how serious is it? And, you know, have you seriously thought about taking your life, and then working with the answer that comes back? Because sometimes the question of "Are you okay?" is it's so generic, and people are going to just nod and say yes. So I really loved and embraced the training, even though at the time it was super confrontational, because they're questions that no one wants to ask, and it's uncomfortable. And, you know, it's just trying to open up that people can find the support, and then help to not necessarily help to deal with everything that comes back in the answers, but then guide them to the right support mechanism and the right help. And there is help out there. There's lots of charities out there, and sort of support channels out there now. It's super.
I love that, Kelly. And, you know, I think a lot of parents would benefit from that training. I think we'd all benefit, all of us, from that training. It'd be so important. I think that's beautiful.
Mm. Yeah, it was quite, as I say, quite confrontational, and I had never thought about asking questions that way, not just of youths actually and kids, but of adults as well. And you can see people, sometimes you can see signs that are staring you in the face and you don't always spot them. So it was training on those things as well, that people are not acting as normal as they might in their eye. They're trying to be sometimes more funny or humorous, and using humor as a defense. And sometimes the depression is more obvious, or the signs are there in different ways. So recognizing the signs, and then finding the right questions to ask, and not being scared to ask them, because just asking that question could help someone. Yeah, it was really good. I would love to get the training to teachers and, you know, more, as you say, more parents and people out there, because it can save lives.
I really like the trend that I see emerging of mental health first aid. I think a lot of workplaces and youth centres and lots of organisations are embracing that, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Danielle, you get a bit involved as well. You've got a couple of outlets as well that you're working with.
Yes, yeah, I do. Well, I see people one-on-one as I've said, but in the local community as well. Yeah, I've been really involved in sport as well. So, you know, and I think sport's an amazing thing for people's mental health, for the kids to get out and to actually, you know, do something physical. But yes, I'm involved with Black Dog. I've got my little bracelet on, the Black Dog Institute. So raising money for, they have a lot of programs that are for free, that you know, resources for free, online resources and online counselling. So yeah, I'm involved in that, and some other things as well. But these, in fact, there's 3 of us on this panel here who are walking for mental health awareness for the Black Dog Institute, to raise awareness and to spread that message further. So yeah, we're all doing things, you know, I think this is a great group. We're all doing so many things in different ways to help out as much as we can. But I think really the main message, like you said, Kelly, is to know that, yeah, there is help available, definitely, that it is okay not to be okay, and to ask for help. And you know, there are some, if people wonder why we do what we do, I've got some statistics that I think, you know, we're all doing our thing in our own way, but I'd just like to reinforce by saying that, you know, some of these statistics are pretty scary. That 1 in 3 Australian women and 1 in 20 Australian men have experienced at least 1 incident of domestic violence in their lives. 1 in 5 Australian women have experienced sexual abuse. 1 in 5 people experience symptoms of mental illness in any given year. 72% of males will never seek help, and that one's really sobering. More than 2 million Australians suffer from anxiety. That's 5.9% of us, and we're living with depression as well, huge levels of depression. And this one is very confronting. More people aged between 15 and 44 die from suicide than from cancer or road accidents. So Indigenous people are twice as at risk. And today and every day in Australia, at least 8 people will die from suicide. and so many more will attempt to take their lives. So this is why I do what I do, and I know this is why you all do what you do, and this is why we all collectively write what we write. And I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for participating in this, and thank you to our audience for tuning in and listening to these important messages. And if anybody wants to hear any more about us as individuals, we're all available on the usual programs, Instagram, Facebook. You can contact us on those pages. We all have our websites as well, which will be listed later on. I'm available, and our books are available. Mine are available at danielleaikenauthor.com. Kelly's is kellybannelson.com, mickeymartinbooks.com, and lindajellyman.com. So we are available, and we invite you all to tune in or you know, pop onto our websites or pop onto our pages, and we're available to have a chat as well. So great books and lovely to chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.